Good morning, class 9 students. I welcome you all on this online platform provided by Jagrati Classes. We were doing chapter 13th of class 9, that is, Why Do We Fall Ill? And we have seen in the previous video lecture, which was an introductory lecture for this unit, and we have dealt with many concepts. The important concept was, what do you mean by the terms being healthy and being disease-free? Okay, so I have given you a much comparative chart or a comparative study for both these terms. That is, whenever you say a person is being disease-free, it does not mean or it does not guarantee that the person is also healthy. Because if you are considering a healthy person, or if we are dealing with the definitions of health, then according to this chapter of biology, you have to study that health is a condition when a person is fit in all the three aspects. That is, if the person is fit physically, but in fit physically, he or she should be fit mentally and socially. Then such persons can only be regarded as healthy. But being disease-free is a more general term, and much of the individuals can be disease-free, but it is not a surety that they would be what? Healthy. So then we have discussed what do you mean by the term disease. Disease is disturbed ease. That is, whenever we are feeling any disturbance in our comfort zone or in our comfortable situations, then you call it to be disease. Then you study two different categories of disease, that is acute and chronic. And all the comparative points with their examples I have dealt with in the previous video lecture. So today we will be starting the next category of disease. I told you, apart from the acute and chronic categories of disease, you can have two more categories. And these categories or these groups are formed which are based on how we get the disease, okay? Or you can say mode of transfer of the disease. So according to the mode of transfer, you have two categories. The first one is infectious disease, and the next one is non-infectious. So we'll be doing a comparative chart or a comparative study between both the kinds of disease, and these infectious disease even you have to do in quite detail. So for the first point, these infectious disease, it is also known as communicable diseases. Communicable diseases. Whereas the non-infectious disease, non-infectious are also called as non-communicable disease. So the first point in this column would be, they are called as non-communicable. And their definitions are very much clear from the name itself. Infectious or communicable disease means which gets spread from one person to the other person. Whereas the non-infectious disease or non-communicable disease are those diseases which do not get spread from one to other person. So we can say that infectious disease, they spread from one to the other person, but these diseases, they do not spread. The next point, what you can have in infectious disease, because these disease, they spread very fast from a sick person to a healthy person. In turn, they can cause greater destruction. Okay? Why they cause more harm or more destruction? Because they are spreading at a very faster rate in whole of the community. And the fourth point could be, these infectious disease, they are or they influence the community health also. They influence the community health. That is, you have to deal with two parameters in anything you are studying in the chapter. That is, one is individual component and the next one is community component. Individual, you understand, I know, that one single person is known as individual. Whereas community means the group of persons surrounding you in your environment is called the community. So these infectious or communicable disease, because they spread from one to other person and their rate of spreading is quite high. So due to this, they cause greater destruction and they influence the community health also. Because they are infectious, they spread in the whole community. Whereas the non-infectious disease, which are even known as the non-communicable diseases, they do not get spread. And hence, it is clear that non-infectious means they do not get spread. They cannot be communicated from one person, from the sick one to the healthy one. And then the third point, you just have to write the opposite. They cause greater destruction, so these cause comparatively lesser destruction. Okay? Comparatively less harm or less destruction is being caused. And the 4th point would be, here these infectious disease, they influence the community health, but non-infectious disease, they are limited only up to, these diseases are limited only up to the individual health. And then for the next point of the comparison, you can include the examples. For example, infectious disease is common cold, okay? Viral fever, viral infections, common cold, these are infectious. Then you can have tuberculosis, etc. All these diseases are considered to be infectious because they spread from one to other person, whereas dealing with the examples of non-communicable disease, non-communicable, the basic example could be headache. Yes, headache can also be considered as a disease, because disease is what? According to the definition provided in the chapter, any disturbance in your ears is disease. And due to headache, we feel uncomfortable. That is, headache causes a disturbance in our ears. So I can consider here headache as a disease also. So the headache is non-infectious. That is, if a person having headache and you are sitting very nearer or closer to that person, it is not that the headache would get transferred into you. No. And in turn, headache is what? It is a kind of non-infectious disease. And a proper example would be cancer. So cancer is again a non-infectious disease. If you shake hands with a cancerous person or you eat food with them, this cancer would not get transferred into your body. And in turn, it is regarded as non-communicable or non-infectious disease. So these are the two diseases I hope you have understood, because you are reading these from your junior classes itself. Now there is, okay, before these, we'll be dealing with this. There is a case study, that is peptic ulcers and the Nobel Prize. This case study is being given in your books also. I hope it is visible. You can even see in your books. So this is a story that when peptic ulcers is what? It is a gastrointestinal disorder, that is the disorder of your gut, in which ulcers are being produced, okay, due to the excess secretion of acids and all. The patients or the persons in that previous era were having ulcers, and these were named as peptic ulcers. So for many years, everybody used to think that peptic ulcers, which are related to acidity, I told you it is a gastrointestinal disorder, so which cause acidity related pain and bleeding in the stomach. But peptic ulcers is much more advanced or a harmful form of acidity, in which you have the pain and in turn you also have a bleeding in stomach and duodenum. Duodenum is a part of your intestine. So because of the lifestyle reasons, it was considered that this is due to the lifestyle. Everybody thought that a stressful life is a reason for the disease peptic ulcers. But later on, 2 Australians, they made a discovery and they even got a Nobel Prize for their discovery. So they discovered that there is a bacteria which is called Helicobacter pylori, and this bacteria is responsible for causing peptic ulcer disease. And this reason, that is a stressful life cycle, is not responsible for the disease peptic ulcers. What they did is, Warren, he was a pathologist, okay, Robin Warren. So Robin Warren, a pathologist from Perrin, saw these small curved bacteria. This is important. What he saw is, when he examined the patients, he saw that the bodies of these patients, they contain small curved bacteria. They saw these small curved bacteria to be present in the lower part of the stomach in many patients. Then he noticed that wherever these bacteria were present, at that locations or at that body parts, inflammation were always present. So he concluded that these small curved bacteria, which are Helicobacter pylori, these are responsible for causing the disease peptic ulcers. Inflammation is what? Inflammation is a swelling and burning sensation. Then with Warren, Barry Marshall also joined. He was a young clinical fellow. He was doing his internship and he was interested in Warren's finding. Then Marshall and Warren showed that the patients who are having peptic ulcers, they can be cured instantly or in a few days to weeks if they are treated with the antibiotics. Okay, so they discovered that whenever the patients, they are treated with the proper antibiotics which kill this bacteria, Helicobacter pylori, then the patients recovered very fast. So it was a very great discovery, okay, of that time, because these patients who were suffering from peptic ulcers for so long, they got healed because due to Marshall and Warren's discovery of the cause of the disease. So what they discovered? They discovered the cause of disease. And in turn, this is very important. If we are suffering from any kind of disease or disorder, and if we are able to find the particular cause of that disease, then only you can proceed further. That is, you can take proper medications, proper guidance in order to remove this cause of the disease. And once the cause, that is the bacteria, were discovered, the patients were treated with antibiotics, and now this peptic ulcer disease, it is no longer a chronic, frequently disabling condition, but it is a disease which is cured in a time interval of few days to weeks. So now we do not consider peptic ulcer to be chronic disease. It is in the category of acute disease. And for this achievement, see, it is written that Marshall and Warren, which are being shown in the picture, they received the Nobel Prize for Physiology and Medicine in 2005. So this is a great achievement, and because this is given in your books, you could be asked in any question related to this topic, so you should remember. And this is a kind of case study or a small short story, you can say, where peptic ulcers and the Nobel Prize is its heading or the topic. So I hope you have understood. So what is important, why I read this, okay, in the class itself, because here I want to focus all of your mind on this fact that the most important thing for the cure of any disease is to know the cause of that disease. If once we know the cause of disease, then only we can do something to prevent the disease, okay? So the cause of disease, we can even group the cause of disease into different parts. So if I ask you, how can we categorize the causes of disease into different subcategories or subparts? Then we can have the three causes, that is the primary cause. Accordingly, you can research or study for any of the disease. First, you have to find its primary cause. Then you can seek for the secondary cause responsible for the disease. And then you can have many other causes like tertiary. So the primary cause can also be called as immediate cause or the immediate reason, or it is also called the 1-degree cause. Okay, primary is generally called the 1 degree, secondary is 2 degree, and tertiary is represented at the 3rd degree, or you can also call it to be the 3rd level cause. Similarly, this would be the 2nd level cause, and the primary would be the 1st level cause. Now this primary, it can also, yes, it has so many names. By any name, if you are getting any kind of question, so I do not want you to miss any kind of name, okay? They all names, they stand for one and the same thing. You can call the major cause or the main cause of this disease. Primary means what is the major factor which is responsible for the cause of this disease. So it is the major or main cause of the disease, whereas secondary and tertiary, they can be regarded as contributory causes, or you can call them to be the minor causes. Okay, now we have discussed the three types of causes, and I have given you many names for the causes. So what are actually these causes? If we consider any disease, for example, what kind of cause will you keep in primary? So the primary cause can be what? Infection by a microbe. That is, microbes, which are even called the disease-causing organisms. Microbes, or you can say the disease-causing organisms. And remember, these disease-causing organisms are referred by a name called pathogens. We know that not all microbes or not all microorganisms are harmful to us. Many microorganisms, they are very beneficial for us. That is, microorganisms, some microorganisms are present in our intestine. They help in the digestion. They aid in effective digestion. Then some kind of microorganisms like bacteria and all, lactobacillus, they are even used for making curd out of the milk. Some kind of microorganisms are very beneficial. That is, they help in pollination. So we say that those microorganisms or those microbes which are harmful to us and they cause disease, such microbes are called as pathogens. So the major or the primary cause, or you can say the first level cause of a disease, should be the study of the pathogen. The next two causes can be, let's suppose the first is the microbe, then the second level cause could be lack of proper balanced diet, lack of proper food. Then you can say the secondary cause may be lack of clean drinking water, okay? Or it can be any other thing at an individual level, lack of clean food, then presence of unhygienic conditions, at the individual as well as at the community level. So all these can be included in the secondary or the second level of causes. And the tertiary causes, they could be the social and economic condition. If you have any kind of disease or disorder, and if the persons are not having the money to cure them or to visit a doctor, then these would lead to a different level of the disease, or it would disturb the condition more. And this can be included in the tertiary cause, okay? So these are the three levels or the three causes of disease. Any disease can have these three levels of causes. Now we are coming to this picture. This is again a picture drawn on page number 81, and it shows many infectious disease, and this disease are caused by what organisms. So what you have to do is, you do not have to remember any kind of diagrams from here. You just have to remember the name of the pathogen. I told you, what do you mean by pathogen? You can be asked in examinations, okay? Yes, whenever I'll say you have to do this because it is coming in the exams, then you focus more. So pathogens, the definition can be asked in the examinations. Pathogens are what? These are the disease-causing microbes. Now, in these pictures, you have to remember the pathogen. Then you have to remember the category of pathogens. Category means, I want to say that either it is a bacteria or it is a virus, or pathogens can be bacteria, virus, protozoa, worms, sometimes fungus, which cause the skin infections and allergies. So you can have different categories. So you have to remember the name of the pathogens, its category. Then you can remember, if it is given, the name of the disease, what the pathogen causes, okay? These are the 3 points which you have to remember from each of the pictures or the photographs. So the first one, if we see, the first one is a picture of SARS virus. So here, what you have to remember, it is, okay, I have miswritten it. It is SARS virus. So the name of the pathogen is SARS. Its category is, it belongs to the category of virus, and the disease which it causes is similar to the name given to the virus, okay? So it causes a disease called SARS, which is severe acute respiratory syndrome. And yes, this virus belongs to the category of coronavirus. This is what you have, a lung infection. SARS infection, see, it is a severe acute respiratory syndrome, means when you have a group of symptoms in a same disease. So you have to remember these three things for the first one, and then you can remember the important points which are given, that is, you can see all these are microbes, that is a 500 nanometer line is drawn here, and then you can see the size compared to how small are they, smaller in size. Then the next picture is of Leishmania. This Leishmania belongs to the category of protozoan, and it causes a disease called Kala Azar, okay? Then you can see that this infects our immune system. It has a whip-like flagella. As you can see, a whip is there, a stalk-like, and it gets hold of the immune cells. So it makes our immunity weak. The next one, you have a bacterium which is called Staphylococci. It is a bacteria and it causes acne. So it produces oil on the skin, and which leads to the production of acne. And Staphylococci here, these are named, every bacteria or most of the bacteria, they are being classified into different categories based on their shape which they have. So Staphylococci means which are coccus shaped, and coccus here means which are spherical in shape, okay? Staphylococci means which are spherical in shape. Such bacteria are known as Staphylococci, and Staphylococci bacteria, Staphylo here actually means these spherical shaped bacteria which are present in a form of chain or in a form of group, you can say, okay? One shape is called the coccus or the cocci bacteria, and when they are present in the form of groups, they are known as Staphylococcus. And they cause acne. The next one, you have a picture of Trypanosoma. It is again a protozoan, and it causes sleeping sickness. And you can see the shape. It is being compared to one RBC. And then the last one is you have an adult roundworm. So it belongs to the category of roundworms. And the name is Ascaris lumbricoides. Okay, this is the scientific or the technical name. You can see this is a worm, so it belongs to the category of roundworm. The name of the pathogen is Ascaris lumbricoides, and the disease, okay, it is present in the small intestine, and in the small intestine, it causes a disease which is called as Ascariasis. Yes, the name of the disease is similar to the name given to the worm. Okay, so the disease here is Ascariasis, which is caused by the roundworm Ascaris. So you have to learn, I already told you, at least these 3 points from the pictures provided. You can be asked as a short question or in the fill in the blanks that name the microbe which causes the disease Kala Azar and give the category of the microbe. The microbe belongs to dash category. So you have to name that Leishmania is the microbe responsible for causing Kala Azar, and it is a protozoan. Or you can be asked that Staphylococcus is in a kind of multiple choice question, and the 4 options would be virus, bacteria, protozoa, worm. So the correct would be it is a bacteria. Okay, similarly you will be getting questions. Okay, so this is again a diagram given in your books, and it is about different means of spread of disease. And here, which diseases are we talking about? The diseases which get spread from an infected person to a healthy person. It means we are referring to infectious disease. So you will be getting a long question, that is, what is the means of spread of infectious disease in the organism? So you will be writing the different means of spread. You have to elaborate, and then you have to give the answer, okay? So the first means of spread which we are taking is by air. So if we study the different means of spread of disease, then the first one would be the diseases spread by air. So what are the diseases which get spread by air, and how do the disease get spread by air? So there is again a diagram, a picture representing the spread of disease by air. That is, whenever a unhealthy or a sick person, he sneezes or coughs, then the droplets come out, or the droplets are being released out after he sneezes. And these droplets, okay, a person is being drawn, with this is a sick person, she is suffering from common cold. So whenever he'll sneeze or cough, then the droplets released as a result of sneezing, they would be released in the nearby environment. So these are the infectious droplets from the sneeze or the cough. And when these droplets are being released in the environment, some of the droplets, they might fall on the ground instantly, okay? These are the droplets present, so these might fall on the ground. Some of the droplets, they may be carried away by the air. And when these droplets, these infectious droplets which contain the infecting agents in them, these are carried away by air. And if a healthy person, this is a healthy person, and when this healthy person inhales, that is when he breathes in with the air around, he also takes the droplets, and these droplets would cause infection in the healthy person. So it is advised that always you should cover your face with a handkerchief whenever, or with your hand whenever you sneeze or cough, so that you do not act as a spreader or a carrier of this disease further, okay? So prevention is what? You have to write in everything, that is how the disease gets spread by air. So whatever we have, I have explained you with the diagram, and by speaking you can write it in a theoretical language, and this will give you the answer that how the disease gets spread by air. Then you can make a similar rough sketch which is even provided in your books in a clear manner. So you can draw this, and then you can write the prevention, okay? How this infection can be prevented. So the first point would be cover your mouth, covering the mouth and the nose with either hand or with a handkerchief while coughing or sneezing. While we cough or sneeze, then the next point is, how can you prevent this? You should take medications. Proper medication should be taken so that the infection does not persist in the body for a longer time. And the shorter duration of the infection would be in your body, the less prone you would be to spread the disease further, okay? And then the person, the infected or the sick person, he or she should use her separate utensils and separate clothes. No sharing of utensils, stationary clothes should be done. Minimum contact with the outsider should be done. So all these would be beneficial for the sick person itself and for the other members of the community as well. So you have to explain whenever you get these are very basic questions. I know you all can explain it. So we have done the spread by air. See, it is given when the person is coughing, the droplets are being carried to the healthy person, and in turn this healthy person would also get a disease. So by air, if we talk about examples, which diseases are spread by air? So by air, common cold, then tuberculosis, that is TB, the lung infection, then pneumonia. All these diseases can be spread by means of air. Then the next is by food. So if we take contaminated food, then you can have diseases, okay? Or if you consume the food which has been touched or eaten by infected person. Remember, we are talking about infectious disease. So the infected person, the person having infectious disease, if he touches some food or water and then you consume the same, then there are many chances likely that you would get a disease. Okay, it's not that every time you will get a disease. If a person is, I told you, if a person is having non-infectious disease like cancer, and if the person is cooking, then you cannot say that no, you are having cancer, I'll not consume the food made by you. Okay, this would be a very rude behavior and an unscientific approach, because you should know we are talking about spreading of infectious disease here. And if you have a good immunity, if you practice hygienic habits, then there are very less chances that you will encounter the disease. But if a person is having infectious disease, then it is better that we do not consume or use the products which are being touched by the infected person. It is better for the person itself, and I told you it is better for the remaining community also. So by food also, and if by food here is, if you consume the food touched by infected person, and the next one could be what? If we intake contaminated food or water, then also we are likely to suffer from a disease. It is being given as an explanation in your books that if an infected person, let's suppose we are talking of a less developed place, so if an infected person, if its excreta, which is containing any kind of infectious agents and microbes in his body, then if the excreta of the infectious person somehow gets mixed with the river water or with the lake water, and then if you consume that water, then you are very likely to suffer from the disease which the infected person is suffering. And so this means if you consume contaminated, which means impure or not of good quality also, the food and water, then also you are likely to suffer from the same disease as the person is suffering. So it is always advised to eat freshly cooked food and to eat with cleaner hands and to always wash fruits and vegetables very carefully, very nicely before consuming them. Okay? So this is the infection by food. And what kind of diseases can you get? So the diseases can be, if you take contaminated water, then you could get cholera, or you can even get food poisoning. Remember, food poisoning is non-infectious, or it is slightly infectious also. So food poisoning, or you can get diarrhea. So these are some of the diseases which can be spread by consuming contaminated food and water. Then by rabid animals, many diseases can be spread. Okay, they can cause many diseases. So the pets, if you are having any kinds of pets, then you are advised to keep them regularly vaccinated. Then one more cause is mosquito or insect. So these mosquito, when they bite the infected person, okay, the example here is malaria. Malaria, dengue fever, typhoid, these are the infectious disease. And whenever the mosquito or insect, these are actually not responsible for making you sick. The infected person which is suffering from malaria, if the mosquito comes and bites this person, then the agents responsible for causing malaria, they enter into the mosquito. And when the mosquito comes and bites a healthy person, that during biting, they release that pathogens of malaria into the healthy person, and then the healthy person gets affected. Okay? So these are also called as the vectors. So you do not get confused between the terms vectors and pathogens. We'll be dealing it, okay? And then it's by indirect contact, means if you are using the utensils and the clothes or towels you are sharing of the infected person, you are likely to get a disease. And then is the direct contact. If you have a direct contact with the infected person, then such diseases which spread due to direct contact are called STDs, which are sexually transmitted diseases. And the examples are gonorrhea, and then you can have AIDS. So all these diseases like AIDS, they do not spread from one person to another during a handshake or indirect contact, okay? They only serve due to the direct contact, that is, it is sexually transmitted disease. So these are the different modes or the means of transfer of disease from one person to other. Now let's discuss some terms, which is what do you mean by the term host, then you have vector, and then you have pathogens. Pathogens are what I already told you. These are the disease causing microbes, okay, and these can be of any category. That is, for example, they may be bacteria, viruses, protozoa, etc., worms, fungus, etc. Host is what? Host is the organism. You can call the healthy organism which gets infected. So the healthy person in which the disease is caused, it is called the host. And vectors are the carriers of the disease. Okay? They are actually not responsible for causing the disease. They are only the carriers. For example, the mosquitoes and flies. For example of vectors, you can take the mosquitoes. I told you how malaria is caused in short. So mosquitoes and flies, these are generally termed as vectors. Vectors and pathogens are different. Pathogens which cause disease, and vectors which are the carriers of disease, you can also call them intermediaries responsible for transfer of disease. So if I make a flowchart to explain you, let's suppose you have a sick person, and this person is sick because some pathogen attacked on the person and made him sick. Okay, so pathogen attacks on a person and makes him sick. From this sick person, the vectors, which are the carriers of disease, they transmit this disease from the sick person to the healthy person. And this healthy person is called as host. Okay, so vectors are just responsible to transfer the disease. For causing the disease, who is responsible? The pathogens. So this completes means of spread, causes of disease, first, second and third level of causes, and examples of different disease. Now you can learn, question comes in exams frequently that name the 2 to 3 diseases which are caused by virus, name diseases which are caused by bacteria. So it is being given in your books in a form of paragraph, okay? So you can learn that also, that you should know the names of 2 to 3 diseases which are caused by virus, bacteria, protozoans, etc. So thank you for joining today's class. I hope you understood every concept which I wanted to clarify. Till then also, if you have any kind of queries, you can contact us anytime. Till then, stay home, stay safe, keep studying, okay?